You have in custody?
No, Judge.
Nope, he's supposed to be on bond account.
Samuel Riddick Jr.
Good morning, sir. You understand why you're here today? Yes, sir. Are you able to afford a lawyer?
No, sir.
How long have you been in custody?
3 months.
3 months? All right, the court will appoint the public defender's office representative. Counsel, this is for revocation. Get a date with the secretary, please.
Judge, we did. It's going to be 9/21.
Your lawyer will get in contact with you, okay? Yeah, it should have been here at 9:30, right? 3:45 there. Give them a little more time to call the case. Bond, you might make the bond until the clock at 9:30? All right, call the case.
Commonwealth of Virginia versus Stephen Rankin. Is the Commonwealth ready?
Commonwealth ready.
Is the defense ready?
Good morning, Your Honor. President ready.
Morning, Counsel. We need to take a minute now.
No, Your Honor.
Bring the jurors, please.
Judge, actually, may we approach with one? Actually, no. We'll withdraw that motion.
Call starts.
Bring the jurors.
5 yards.
Get the mic, please. Take your seat. Good morning, members of the jury. Good morning. How you all doing today? You have a good weekend?
Yes, sir.
Glad you did. Now, do you have anyone that may have heard anything about this case by way of the news media? So you're ready to go to work then, right? Call the case, please.
Yes, sir. Commonwealth of Virginia versus Stephen Rankin. Is the Commonwealth ready?
Commonwealth ready.
Is the defense ready?
We are, Your Honor.
All right, counsel, you may proceed.
Paul Akey.
Okay. Step this way, sir, please.
Judge, this witness has not been sworn.
Shall this swear or affirm testimony in this case to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Good morning, sir. Could you tell us your first and last name and spell your last name for us?
Paul Akey, A-K-E-Y.
All right, and Mr. Akey, if you could, during the course of this, just keep your voice up, speak loudly, clearly, and slowly, okay? All right, Mr. Akey, were you in Portsmouth on the 22nd of April of 2015.
Yes, I was.
And what were you doing?
I was a crane operator. We were putting up a Wal-Mart convenience store.
And where is that Wawa located in connection to a Wal-Mart?
It was right in front of it before you came to it, about maybe 100 yards or more in front of the Wal-Mart.
What stage of construction were you in at the Wawa?
We were putting the top on it right then, and I was holding a piece up.
You were holding...
I was holding a piece of steel, a beam.
What was your job, what was your role at that time in the Wawa, building of the
I
Wawa?
was a crane operator. I had to take and pick the pieces up, put them in for the ironworkers to
So where were you? Were you on the ground? Were you above the ground? Where were you?
I was about 15 feet up in the area and sitting in a crane cab.
And could you describe a crane, for people like me that don't know what a crane cab is, can you describe that, please?
Well, it's rotating sort of box, I guess you'd call it, the stuff, windows on the sides, has a boom out, stuff like that, where we took up the pieces of steel.
Are you able to see out of the crane cab?
Yes, I had windows all around it.
All right. On that day, sometime around 7:30 or so in the morning, were you working?
Yes.
And did something draw your attention to an event over at the Wal-Mart parking lot?
Yes, one of the iron workers that was holding steel started yelling and screaming that something was going on in the parking lot. I couldn't understand what he was saying, but he pointed over to the parking lot and started yelling, so I looked over to the parking lot.
And what direction was your crane cab facing at that time?
About straight forward. The cab was straight forward, and I was looking to my right.
Was there anything that obstructed your vision?
No,
How well could you see what was happening in the Walmart parking lot?
very clearly.
Right. Is there anything wrong with your vision?
No, sir.
Right. What's the first thing that you saw when you looked over into the Walmart parking lot?
I looked over and I saw a police officer had a male up on top of a car. It looked like he was trying to put handcuffs on this gentleman.
Okay, let me stop you right there.
Okay.
You could tell it was a police officer?
Yes, sir.
How could you tell it was a police
He was
officer?
in uniform.
Right. The person that he was engaged with, was that another officer or a civilian?
Civilian.
Could you tell us anything about that person?
Not a whole lot. He looked sort of heavy build. I mean, fat or anything. He was sort of husky, muscular.
And did you see a police car?
Yes,
Was it a marked or unmarked car?
it was a marked car.
And where were these two people, the officer and this second person, located in connection with the car?
They were on the driver's side of the police car on the top of the hood,
And what did you
the
see?
front of the car.
All right. Did you see any interaction between the two of them?
Yes, it looked like the police officer was trying to put handcuffs on the male.
Okay. With the male, was he... Describe the location of the parties. Were they face-to-face, back-to-back? How were they?
The male was face down on the hood of the car, and the officer was behind him, sort of at him. It looked like the scruff of the neck, basically his collar.
Right. That's the first...
Pushing against the car.
Okay. That's the first thing that you saw.
Yes, sir.
Could you hear anything?
No, I heard yelling, but I couldn't understand what they were saying.
Right. Right. After that happened, what did you see?
Then I saw the male sit there and come around with his left arm and take and sort of push the officer off, sit there and with an aggressive move, back the officer off with his left elbow.
All right. Did that cause any separation between the two people?
Just a little bit. The officer went backwards a little bit.
Did you see anything in the officer's hands?
Not at first, no.
Okay. All right. Go on.
Then the male sit there and went after the officer with throwing fists, and knocked, it looked like a taser out of the police officer's hand.
And could you see where that taser ended up or how far?
It ended up, I'd say about 10 feet away, because he knocked it aggressively with his left hand. Or, I'm sorry, his right hand.
At this point, were the parties still on the hood of the car?
No, they were towards the back of the car.
And what happened? Describe where they were with each other.
They were basically face to face.
And how far between them were they?
I'd say about 3 feet, 4 feet.
And did you see how the man knocked the taser out of the officer's hands?
Yes, it was sort of an aggressive move, sit there right. I don't know if I did or not, but it was to me that the gentleman did not want to be tased. Was
Okay,
the way I looked at it.
well, just, could you, Judge, may he stand up, please?
You may.
Just stand up and demonstrate what you saw in terms of how that taser got knocked
Okay,
out.
well, the man came around, took and knocked it out.
But,
Kind of tall, so I don't want you to bump your head
And he came at the officer, stopped the officer, pulled his taser, and the man sit there and swiped it with his right hand.
Okay, and that's when you saw the taser fly that distance?
Yes.
All right, and they were face-to-face or back-to-back or
They
what?
were face to face.
Okay. All right, you may have a seat again, please. After the taser got knocked out of the officer's hands, what did you see the man do?
The man sit there and ripped at his shirt. I don't know if there was a taser barb in or what, but he acted like he ripped his shirt off. Now, I don't know if he got the whole shirt off or not.
And where were they by the police car at this point?
This would be towards the back driver's side of the police car.
By the door, police door? Or?
Yes, of the rear door.
Okay.
Closer to the rear door, but out of the place.
And how far were the two people, the officer and the man, next to each other?
Like about 3-4 feet.
Could you hear what was being said?
No, I couldn't understand what was being said.
Could you hear voices, though?
Yes,
Where were the voices coming from?
from the police officer and the gentleman.
Did it appear to be one voice, two voices, or could you tell?
I couldn't really tell.
Were the voices elevated, or were they calm in a conversational
They
state?
were sort of elevated.
All right, so after the taser got knocked out and they separated, what did you see happen then?
Then I saw the police officer taken back up. Like I said, the man tore his shirt off. I like to say, I don't know if he tore it off or not. He was ripping at his shirt.
How far did the officer back up?
He was good 5-6 feet.
Right. Did you see a weapon at this
He was
point?
backpedaling.
I'm sorry, did you see a weapon?
No, I did not.
Okay. Did you ever see the officer draw a weapon?
No, I did not.
What did you see the man who was with his shirt, what did you see him do with his arms or his hands?
He sit there and started coming at the officer aggressively and started wailing on hitting on the police officer.
All right, and what happened then?
Then I heard 2 gunshots, and the gentleman went down, and the cop immediately went over to him, and it looked like he was checking vitals. He wasn't giving CPR or anything, it was more like he was standing over him, and I guess checking vitals. That's my opinion, I guess.
At the time the shots were fired, had the man moved closer to the officer, farther away from the officer, or stayed in the same position?
He moved at the officer.
How much or how far did he move towards the officer?
I'd say, a good 4 feet or so from, he closed the distance and stuff, and he was throwing fists.
What type of pace was the man moving at as he moved those 4 feet towards the officer?
He was aggressive, he was charging the officer.
Prior to the time that happened, had you heard any shots?
No.
After that charge by the man, when did you hear the shots?
It was not long after that, until when he got close to the officer. I did not see him draw a weapon, but I heard the shots, and that was, soon after. It was quick.
And the shots themselves, can you describe them to us? How quickly or how slowly they were?
It was quick. It was bam, bam, and then that was it.
And from your vantage point, could you see how close the man had gotten to the officer?
He was almost right on the officer.
You had mentioned something about his hands. Can you demonstrate what his hands were doing?
He was throwing fists like he was, it was street fighting, basically.
And then after the shot, did you see anyone else in the vicinity?
There was a gentleman, and I thought it was a female at first because they had long hair coming down the road about maybe 40 feet away. That was up towards the Wal-Mart store. Came down the road and was yelling at the officer. Then they got closer. As it got closer, the officer said something, and there was other exchanges, and then the man went back towards the Wal-Mart store.
At the time the shots were fired, how clear was your view?
So there was no obstruction in anything. It was very clear.
And at the time the shots were fired, this man that you thought was a woman because of the hair, did you see him standing next to the officer?
No.
Did you even see him in your line of sight?
I saw him in the corner of my eye coming down the road.
Left to right, right to
And
left?
that would have been to my left, and it's that left side, and he was coming down. I don't know if he was just saying something to the officer or what he was doing, but there were words exchanged, but I couldn't understand what they were saying.
Did you come down off the crane?
No.
At some point later, did you submit to an interview by the state police or by the Portsmouth police?
Yes.
right, Judge, may I approach the witness, please? Jake, you want to show you a photograph and ask you, first of all, if you can take a look at that and if you can identify that for us, please.
Yes, this is the scene that happened that day.
And where were you in that particular picture?
I would have been up from here, and then looking to my right at the scene.
And obviously that's after the fact because the curtains are up
Yes,
around the bottom,
yes.
correct?
Mhm.
And would this be a view that you had of the scene at the time?
Yes.
Such a-
I would have been, in fact, I wouldn't have had the beams in front of me. I'm out here in the clear. I'm out in front of the building. So that's all in front of me.
So this,
That's basically the scene I saw, yes.
Judge, remove this as an defense exhibit. Appraisal clerk?
Counsel,
No objection, Judge.
you may. So proceed.
I'm sorry, I don't know the number, I apologize.
Number 4, Madam Clerk. All right. What is the next?
May I have permission to publish this, Your Honor?
You may.
May I ask Ms. Below to assist
You
you?
may. The members of the jury might have to pull them up yourself there, right?
And sir, while we're waiting for this to come up, can you describe the sizes of each of the two people, the officer and the man, as best you can? Who was bigger, who was smaller?
The gentleman that was with me was, I guess, height-wise, maybe a few inches bigger than the officer, but he was bulkier than what the officer was.
Is there any way to enlarge that?
I will.
Judge, may the witness step down with a pointer, please?
You may step down.
All right, Mr. Akey, I want to show you what's been marked as Defense Exhibit 4, and you've already identified that as the view of the scene that you had. Obviously, the black curtains are around the body, and that was not there at the time, correct?
Yes.
All right, were there any cars in the parking lot other than the police car when you were there?
No, it was pretty empty.
It was early in the morning.
Yes.
All right, so the police car to the right and the, looks like a blue cruiser behind the white police car, they were not there?
No.
And how about the people that were standing in the forefront of the picture, were they there?
No, they were not there either.
Was there anybody that you saw in the parking lot other than the officer and the man?
No, there wasn't.
All right, all right. Where were you in this picture,
I would
approximately?
be up here in front of the building. This would be about midway through the building. And I would be way in front of the building on the clear,
And you were in this crane, how high was the crane?
about 15 foot to where my cab is anyway.
All right, and do you see the police car that was involved in this?
Yes.
Okay, can you point that out to us?
Yes, it would be this car right here.
Okay. And the parties, generally speaking, what area were they located in, the officer and the man?
They were both to this side of the car.
And the gentleman or the person that you thought was a woman that had this long hair, where did you see him or her coming up from?
He was coming up this road here. He was way up this road. Way, I mean, a ways up there.
And at the time of the shooting, would he have been in that picture at all?
No.
He would have been where?
He would have been way up here because I didn't see him till later.
How close did he get to the scene?
I'd say probably pretty close to where that officer is right there. He was there and they were yelling at each other.
The officer and that man?
Yes, he was yelling something at the officer. I don't know if he was with the guy or what. The officer finally sit there, turned around, had his hand on the man's chest, and he yelled at him, and he turned around and walked back.
All right, and while he's out, Judge, may I ask him to do one demonstration, please?
You may.
You've talked about the movements of the man towards the officer. Are you able to demonstrate that to us this morning?
Yeah, to
Could-
my best ability.
Sure, I understand. I understand there's a difference clearly, but can you show us, from the best that you can recall, what that man did moving towards the officer?
Said on him?
Sure.
But he'd come at him and stuff like that, and he was, I mean, it was an aggressive type move.
Okay. Have a seat if you would, please. How many steps, if you can recall, did the man take towards the officer before you heard the shot?
I'd say about 3 or 4.
Were they quick? Were they slow?
They were quick.
Could you hear any voices while that was going on?
No. I mean, I heard voices, but
You couldn't tell what was being said?
couldn't tell what was being said, no.
I may return this to the clerk.
If you don't know how to do it, better.
I think we're all better off if I don't. Thank you, sir. Would you please answer the court or counsel's question?
Sure.
Judge, may I have just a moment?
That's it.
Thank you. Good morning, sir. I'm well. How are you? Okay. 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 Sir, I just have some questions based on what Mr. Broccoletti was asking you. You stated that you were 100 yards or more from the Wal-Mart in the position that you were at in your crane, right?
No, I did not.
You did not?
I did not say 100 yards. In fact, I'm not real good at distance, but I was saying closer to 52. Then I'm basically on a football field.
Now, I'm not asking about your distance from yourself to the scene of the incident. I'm asking about what you said on direct examination, how far you were from the Wal-Mart. Do you recall saying you were...
from the Wal-Mart?
Yeah. Do you recall saying you were 100 yards or more from the Wal-Mart?
Just not, yeah, I'd say so.
Okay, but you're not very good with distances, right?
No.
Okay. How far in yards were you from the incident then?
I'd say anywhere from around 50 yards.
Okay. Do you recall being out there with a construction worker named Stephen Price that day?
Yes.
And you're familiar with him, you know him to be one of your coworkers, right?
Yes.
Well, if Stephen Price said he was 150 yards from the incident, would that cause you to change your testimony about how far you were?
No.
So
I'm
Stephen...
telling you what I thought the distance was. I'm not talking what he did.
Okay, okay. And you say that nothing obstructed your vision when you were sitting there in your crane cab, correct? You saw very clearly from your crane cab to the scene of the incident, right? Mr. Akey, how old are you today?
60.
That would mean you would have been 59 at the time of this incident, correct?
February, yeah, 59.
Have you ever used glasses or contacts to help your vision?
No.
You have no vision problems whatsoever? Okay. Now, what direction was your crane faced in when you first realized something was going on? It wasn't faced toward the incident, was it?
No.
It was
No,
faced
I wasn't
in.
Faced, like if the incident was there, I was facing this way,
Mhm.
and the incident sort of happened to my right.
So you would have had to turn your crane cab all the way to the right to see what was going
Turn
on.
my head to the right.
Turn your head to the
Window
right.
there.
Okay. And let me show you a photo. And I want to, Judge, may I have him step down, please?
Has this been introduced already?
This-
Wait a minute.
Has this been introduced?
Judge, may I approach the witness? Sir, you recognize what's shown in this photo, correct? This would be the scene of the incident,
Yes.
the wall behind it?
Yes. Okay.
And if I display this photo to the jury, you could tell them where you were observing this from based on this photo, right?
It's not very clear.
But you recognize the crane, were you?
Yeah, that's great, that's where I was.
Is that out? This is Commonwealth's
Yes,
next
sir.
judge.
Sir?
I'd offer this is Commonwealth's next judge.
No.
No objection.
May I approach?
What's the next number after? 58. So receive.
Judge, Mr. Rankin step down and use the pointer.
Yes, sir. You may step down, sir.
Sir, point to where you were observing this incident from on that photo, please.
I would say you can barely see my cab right there underneath the tree.
Okay. What's between your cab and the incident?
There's a tree that's above my cab.
And there's also a mound of dirt, is there not?
No.
There's not?
The mound of dirt is to your left side, to your right left side here.
Okay.
No, sir, I'm up here.
Okay.
I'm up here in the cab.
Gotcha. But there is a tree between you and the incident in this photo,
Yeah,
is there
I'd
not?
say so, yeah.
Okay. Thank you, sir. You can return to your seat. Now, sir, you said that the victim in this case looked to be heavy-built, husky, and muscular. Do you agree with that?
Yes, I'd say so.
Okay.
From my point of view, yeah.
Okay. I want to put you on notice that the medical examiner in this case testified that the victim was scrawny. Would that cause...
Not the word that the medical objection.
Skinny, Judge. I apologize. I want to put you on notice that the medical examiner in this case characterized the victim as skinny, and that's the person who did the autopsy. Would that cause you to change your testimony?
No.
No. You maintain, despite that the
Yes,
victim was
yes,
bulky and
What
muscular.
I saw and stuff like that, he looked like he was huskier than what the police officer was.
From what you saw from at least 50 yards away, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, immediately after this incident happened, what did you do?
What did I do?
Yes.
I sat in the cab with my crane.
Okay. Did you continue working?
No, I sat there and looked at everybody else and what they were doing and what was happening with the police officer.
Okay. Did you ever get out of the crane and go talk to your coworkers?
Maybe later.
Maybe later. Okay. How much later?
I'd say maybe 15 and a half hours.
15 minutes to a half hour later, after this incident happened,
Yes.
you went and talked to your coworkers, and you were discussing what happened, were you not?
Yeah, but what we saw, yeah.
Okay. Was everybody in perfect agreement about what happened?
I really don't remember. I mean, it was, we saw this policeman shoot the man and it went down and that was it. Yeah.
Well, you would agree with me that not everybody had the same story, wouldn't you?
Judge, I object to
No,
that.
I wouldn't.
I object to
No, I'm
that. I object to that, Judge. That's speculation on his part. The witnesses will be here to testify.
No, yes.
You would agree with me, Mr. Akey, that 15 minutes to a half an hour after the incident, not every one of your coworkers had the same story about what happened. You would agree with
No, I
that?
cannot say that.
You can't say that.
No,
Okay.
I do not.
That's fine.
I do not agree with you.
That's fine. Now, you gave 3 different statements to law enforcement in this case, did you not?
Not that I know of, no.
Not that you know of. You don't recall giving these statements?
I remember giving the statements. Oh, I thought you said different statements.
I'm not saying
talking that different stories, okay?
three different occasions.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I did.
You recall handwriting a statement to Detective Billy Joe Parrish of the Portsmouth Police Department. Do you?
Again, I guess that was who gave me, somebody gave us a piece of paper and asked us to fill out what we saw. I don't know the name or whatever.
Okay. May I approach the witness, Your Honor? Mr. Akey, I'm going to hand you this statement, and I'm going to ask you if you recognize it.
Yes, that's me.
That's your handwriting?
Yes, sir.
You signed that?
Yes, sir.
And that's an accurate and full account of this incident to the best of your knowledge,
Yes.
correct? You wrote down everything you knew about this incident on that piece of paper at the time, correct?
Basically, yes.
Basically. Okay, so there's some stuff that you remember that's not on that piece of paper?
I don't know. I don't know what.
I'm going to ask you to hold on to that for a second, Mr. Akey.
Okay.
Do you recall writing that statement in the early morning of April 22nd, 2015,
Yes,
right?
well, it was about 8 o'clock, 8:30.
About 8 o'clock,
It was a while after that.
So between 8 o'clock and 8:30, you wrote that
I'd say
statement.
so, yeah.
I want to direct your attention to a statement on that you wrote on that particular statement. You wrote between 8 a.m. and 8:30 a.m. on April 22nd, 2015, that it looked like the black man had been tased and pulled the prongs out. Is that correct?
That's where he was taking his shirt off. When I mentioned that he was ripping his shirt off.
Right.
To my thinking was that he had gotten tased and was pulling his shirt off because of a prong.
Okay, are you familiar with the taser at all, sir?
I've never been tased.
You've never been tased. I haven't either, thank goodness. And
I've seen it on TV, but that's as far as.
you've seen it on TV, okay. And your testimony is that he was pulling the prongs out, correct?
No, I'm saying he tore his shirt off, and I thought that might have been a prong in there.
You thought there might, but you weren't sure that there was a prong in there.
Pardon?
You weren't sure that there was a prong in there. Okay, because you were pretty far away from the incident, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. And you said he pulled his shirt off. Did he get it all the way off?
I don't know. I
You know-
stated that I did not know whether I do not recollect him getting it all the way off or not.
What color was the shirt?
I don't know. I believe it was white.
You believe it was a white shirt?
I'm not going to say specifically, but
Now, also, you stated that the cop backed up approximately 10 feet in that statement, did you not?
in this statement,
You wrote that, in fact, didn't you?
I don't see it.
Let me direct your attention to the fifth line.
Okay, approximately 10 feet, yes.
Okay. And today you came in and testified that the cop was only 4 feet away from the victim, did you not?
Approximately.
So approximately gives you 6 feet of leeway, correct?
Possibility.
Because it's tough to tell exact distances from how far away you are, is it not?
Pardon?
It's tough to tell exact distances from the distance you were from this incident.
Yes, you're correct. Yes.
Okay. You also stated, in fact wrote in your own handwriting in this statement, that the black man came at him. Would that be accurate?
Which part?
Let me direct your attention to the fourth line, right under approximately 10 feet. You say the black man came at him. Do you not?
Okay.
You wrote came at him. That's all you wrote, correct?
Came at it, yes.
And you agreed with me a second ago.
Yes.
Sorry. You agreed with me a second ago that this was a full statement of everything that happened in this incident. Did you not?
A full statement?
Yeah,
That's
a full
basically
statement.
Yes.
Basically, okay. So basically, the victim just came at the officer, and that's it, right?
No.
No. But you're adding today that he charged at him, correct?
Yes, he did.
You didn't state in the first statement that was closest to the incident that the victim charged at the officer, did you?
When he first charged at him?
In-
Pulled the prongs out?
In this statement here, tell this jury where you wrote that the victim charged at the defendant. You can't tell him that because it's not in there, is it?
Can he ask the question and allow him to answer?
Mm. Cop backed up approximately 10 feet and black man came at him.
No charging.
Pardon?
No charging.
Well, I didn't know that you needed specifics. I was just trying to take and write down what I saw. I wasn't on one of these.
No lunging.
Came at him.
Okay. But you didn't write that he charged or lunged in that statement.
No, I didn't.
Okay. And in that statement, tell this jury where you mention that he was ripping his shirt off.
What, this was after
This was the...
officer had him against the car. The man broke loose.
Point me to a specific mention of the victim, the black man, ripping his shirt off in this statement. It's not in there, is it, Mr. Akey?
Looked like black man had been tased and pulled prongs out, which was basically saying was the reason he, which I told you that was the reason he tore his shirt off.
Okay. But you didn't mention in that statement that he tore his shirt off. We agree with
No,
that?
sir.
Okay. You didn't mention he was charging.
And he came at him, that was
Okay.
it.
And this was the statement that you gave that was closest in time to this incident.
Yes.
Between 8 and 8:30, in fact.
I'd say about that time.
Half hour after, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Half hour after the incident happened. That's when you wrote this statement.
I'd say approximately.
Okay. You also state that the black man fell to the ground on his back. Would that be accurate in that statement right there?
No.
No? You did not write in the third to last line that the black man fell to the ground on his back?
Yes, he did.
Okay. No, I'm not trying to confuse you. I'm just making sure.
sorry.
That's exactly what you wrote, in fact, isn't it?
The police officer saw him and he went down, he basically went down to his knees and then back.
You're saying the victim
Yes.
went down to his knees and then fell backwards?
Yes.
And you also write on the second to last line that the defendant went over and turned the man on his stomach. Would that be accurate?
Yes.
Okay. You also were interviewed by someone from the Virginia State Police, were you not?
Pardon me?
You also were interviewed by someone from the Virginia State Police,
I
were you
believe
not?
so.
And that would have been around 10:35 a.m. on the same day, April 22nd, 2015. Do you remember that?
Yeah, they came to the job, yes, there was another one there that came and made me this.
May I approach witness, Your Honor?
You may.
And I don't know if you knew his name at the time, but you were all being interviewed by Agent Shannon Pinto.
Okay.
Have you seen this document before?
No.
Okay, would you briefly review that and tell me whether it fairly and accurately depicts your second interview with the Virginia State Police?
You want me to read the whole thing?
I don't want you to read it out loud, but just read it silently to yourself. When you're done, tell me if you recognize it.
Okay.
Okay. Is that a fair and accurate representation of the second statement you gave to Virginia State Police?
Yes.
Okay. I want to direct your attention to, first, how you mentioned that the victim went down. Could you look, please, at the third and fourth to last lines?
Mhm.
Oh, yes, sir.
Judge, I'm objecting that that's not a proper impeachment if he's attempting to impeach the witness. Hasn't laid a foundation. You can't ask him to read what's on the statement. You can ask him if he said that or didn't say that, and then can move on at a later point.
Judge, I'll rephrase. You recall me asking you questions about how the victim went down to the ground in your handwritten statement,
Yes.
correct? And you stated that it was accurate that the black man fell to the ground on his back.
Yes.
And it was accurate that the defendant came over and turned the man on his stomach.
Yes.
Okay. Now I want to direct you on this record of your interview with State Police at 10:35 a.m. on April 22nd to the third to last line of the big paragraph in the middle. You see that? Do you see the statement, the guy went down onto his stomach?
Yes, yes, that's all.
And then you see, after that, the cop ran over and put him on his back.
There was another police officer.
There was another police officer.
Yes.
Okay.
There was a heavy police officer that performed CPR.
But you agree that that's inconsistent
Yes.
with he fell to the ground on his back from your handwritten statement. You agree that that's not the same, right?
Yeah.
Which is it?
Pardon?
Which is it?
Let me recollect, but I believe he went down on his stomach, and then he was put on his back.
Okay. And
The proper one, you were right.
you're not exactly sure because it's tough to tell what was happening from that far away, right?
No, I'm pretty sure. I mean, there was things, the cop was there in front of him, but I'm pretty sure that he went down on his stomach, and the police officer rolled him onto his back, checking vitals.
Okay.
Would be the correct statement, I apologize.
No, that's fine. Now you recall in your handwritten statement having mentioned that it looked like the black man had been tased and pulled the prongs out. You recall that? We talked about that, right?
Yeah, that's when he pulled his shirt off.
Okay.
That's what I think, is ripped his shirt off. To my knowledge, that's the reason he ripped his shirt off, that there was prongs.
Okay. Looking at the record of your interview with Virginia State Police, tell this jury where you mentioned a taser in that statement.
It looked like he knocked something off the cop, not sure what.
Okay, but that's just
I
something.
took it for granted it was a taser.
Okay, okay, and you couldn't see exactly what it was because you were at least 50 yards away, correct?
Yes. I saw the thing go flying, and I took for instance it was a taser.
You mentioned on direct examination with Mr. Broccoletti that the victim got about 4 feet away from the defendant before the shots went out, correct?
Yeah, I'd say pretty close to that, approximately.
Okay. You don't specify anywhere in your second interview with Virginia State Police how far the victim got before he was shot, do you? To
No, I
rephrase,
didn't put specifically. no.
to rephrase, there's no mention of 4 feet away in this second interview, is there? Okay. You've been mentioning frequently, actually, that the guy was ripping his shirt off because of what you thought was the taser prong, correct?
I thought he was trying to get a taser from. That's my.
I got you.
thought.
That's
It's
just your
not-
assumption.
Not saying yes.
I understand. And you also stated that you don't know whether he got whatever he was pulling off fully off, right?
Yeah.
You don't mention the victim pulling his sweatshirt off at all in the second statement, do you?
On the second one?
No. Correct, yes.
No, it doesn't say anything about it, no.
So it wasn't relevant for this second statement that the victim may have been pulling his sweatshirt off?
No, I don't see anything, no.
Sir, you were also interviewed via telephone by Agent Justo of the Virginia State Police on May 11, 2015. Is that correct?
I'm guessing, I don't know the name or anything.
Okay. May I approach the witness, Your Honor? Thank you. I'm going to show you a transcription of that interview on May 11, 2015 at 3:30 p.m. Please take a look at that, read it silently, let me know if it's accurate when you're done. Thank you. All right.
I don't remember saying that there was two guys walking in.
Well,
because I don't remember-
let me ask the question, sir. I'm sorry.
No, okay. You said the answer was correct, but
So, in large part, that's a correct transcription of your interview, right?
except for that one point.
You don't remember everything accurately because it happened so long ago. Is that correct?
Pretty clearly,
Pretty clearly. Okay.
yes.
Okay.
Something you don't forget.
I'm sure. Now, Mr. Akey, you agreed with me that you mentioned a taser in your written statement, correct?
Yes.
The written statement that was between 8 and 8:30 on the morning of the incident, right?
Right.
And you also agree with me that in your second statement, around 10:35, you did not mention a taser because you didn't want to speculate, correct?
The second one?
Yes.
I thought I did.
Well, you just said that
It's not something
he knocked
I
something,
understand.
and you didn't want to say what that something was because you would be speculating, correct?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Now, in your third statement, on May 11, 2015, 19 days after April 22nd, 2015, you mentioned a taser again in that statement, do you not? How are you more sure 19 days after this event that there was a taser involved than you were on the day of?
I really couldn't say.
Had you talked to anybody about this incident between?
Pardon?
Had you talked to anybody about this incident in between April 22nd and May 11th?
I'm sure I've talked to people, not necessarily anybody that, but that's what I took for granted was a taser.
Okay. But we agree that between April 22nd at 10:35 a.m. and May 11th, around 3:30 p.m., you've added the taser back into your story. We agree, right?
Yes.
Okay. And we've talked about your statements about how far the victim was from the defendant. At first it was 4 feet in your direct examination testimony today, right? And then we agree that in your written statement right after the incident, you never said how close the victim was to the defendant, correct?
Probably correct.
Okay. And looking at your May 11, 2015 statement, 19 days after the incident, you say that the victim took 3 to 4 steps toward the officer, do you not?
I'm pretty sure it's in here, yes. I don't see it.
Did you not think it was important to tell the police that the person was advancing on the defendant before then?
Pardon?
Did you not think it was important to tell police that the victim was advancing 3 to 4 steps on the defendant anytime
I believe I
before
did say that.
May 11th?
I believe I did say that.
Okay, but we agreed that you didn't say it at 8:30 a.m. on April 22nd, right?
That he was coming towards the officer?
You didn't specify how many steps, though, did you?
I didn't count him.
You didn't think it was important. And you couldn't count it because of how far away you were. Isn't that correct?
No, it was just probably something I didn't think was important at the time. I wasn't counting steps.
Okay.
It happened very quickly.
So in these various statements you've given to law enforcement, you left out what you did not think was important. Is that correct?
Yes, I did not think it was important since they're taking steps. No, I did not.
On direct examination, you mentioned that you observed the defendant checking the victim's vitals, correct?
That's what I took, I perceived because he went down and had his hand on his...
Okay. And you said he was not doing CPR, correct?
No, it was not.
Now, Mr. Braccoletti asked you some questions about, well, what you thought was a woman with dreadlocks initially, but
Yeah,
later
I mean, it was long-haired.
later turned out to be a man, correct?
Right.
Okay. And you told us that you didn't see the man with dreadlocks anywhere close to the officer. Would that be accurate?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. But it would be fair to say that your attention was not focused on the man with dreadlocks, right?
At the time when I first saw him,
Right.
the man with the gun, yes, it was, because I was wondering what if he was coming up to take and help the gentleman that was on the ground.
So your
or
attention,
whatever. So I was actually looking at him, yes.
so at least for a period of time, your attention was off of the incident and over onto the man with dreadlocks. Would we agree?
Yes.
Okay. How long was that?
Not very long. I mean, the guy came down there and was saying something to the officer. I thought he was a friend of the man on the ground, and I thought he was saying to coming to see if he was all right or to help him.
How long did this whole incident take in seconds, if you can estimate it?
Seconds? How about minutes? But not even 2 minutes.
So 1 to 2 minutes.
I'm speculating.
Okay. And finally, Mr. Akey, you mentioned that you saw the victim's hands before the shots were fired, correct?
He had him up in fists. He was throwing fists.
He had him up in fists.
That's your hand, yes.
Up in fists, right?
Yes.
You mentioned that you could clearly see a gun in the officer's hands, correct?
No, I did not.
You
I
did not?
didn't see any weapon.
You couldn't see any weapon?
No, sir.
Okay. And you also had a clear view of the victim's hands, did you not?
I wouldn't, well, the officer was between me and the victim, no.
Okay.
I saw him sit there and come in when he came up.
You didn't see anything in the victim's hands, did you?
No, I did not.
I have another judge, I apologize. Thank you, sir. That's all the questions I have for you. May I approach with Commonwealth's 58, Judge?
At the time that you saw the man with the dreads, was the shooting ongoing, hadn't happened, or finished?
It was finished.
So when counsel asked you about your attention being directed to the man with the dreads, that was after the fact?
Yes.
With respect to the 3 different statements that you gave, first to the Portsmouth police, second to the two state police officers, one in person and one over the telephone, did you ever deviate from the fact that the black man was coming at the police officer?
No, I did not.
And in your written statement, when you said that the black man came at him, what did you mean by that?
He was aggressively coming at the police officer, throwing fists.
In your second statement that you gave on the 22nd, at about 10:30 in the morning, you said the guy came right at the cop. What did you mean by that?
He was coming aggressively at the police officer.
In the third statement that you gave over the telephone, you said the suspect was coming at the officer swinging. What did you mean by that?
That's what he was doing. He was swinging at the police officer.
Thank you.
Judge, may I follow up briefly?
You may.
Did any of these punches that were allegedly thrown by the victim connect with the officer?
Objection beyond scope, Your Honor.
Did any of the punches connect? And you also mentioned in your mail up statement that the police officer threw some of his own punches, correct?
He was trying to counter what was being thrown at him, yes.
But those hands that the victim was allegedly throwing had nothing in them, correct?
I couldn't tell what they were meant.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Yes, sir, may he be excused?
Hey, you excuse counsel?
Yes, Your Honor. Thank you.
You may be excused.
Thanks, sir.
Counsel, hold on, sir. You gave him some paperwork, state, that you retrieved.
If you want these. Oh, sorry.
All right, so you may be excused. All right, members of the jury, doesn't matter if you take up, but not in your presence. Step to the jury, please. Can you see? Remain quiet, please. And Madam Clerk, you said the arraignment is present now. Call on,
Jerome Edmonds.
Good morning, sir. Good morning. All right. You understand why you're here today? Yes, sir. Are you able to afford a law? Yes, sir. So you're not? Are you currently working? Yes. Where do you work? At Damco. You say Amco? Damco. Damco? How much do you make an hour? $9. The court will appoint the public defender's office representative. Counsel, this is a revocation. Get a date for the secretary.
Yes, sir.
Yes, Your Honor.
Have a seat back there, sir. The lawyer get in contact with you.
All rise. Court is now in recess.